Hey John, just one last thing I want to talk to you about is our relationship. So the difference between being a customer and being a client. Have you ever met with any other agents in Idaho?
I have not.
Okay, so it's really important that we go over this then. So this just talks about, once again, the difference between being a customer and being a client and what duties we owe you in those different capacities.
Okay.
So it actually is Idaho law that we present this to you, so we'll just kind of go over it in detail and make sure you're comfortable with everything here. So right now you're considered a customer because we haven't signed anything stating otherwise, no representation agreements. And as a customer, we owe you these 4 duties. Basically, we're going to assist you with customary acts. We're going to act in good faith and honesty. We're going to properly account for any monies that are entrusted to us and disclose anything adverse about the properties that we look at. So right off the bat, you have the comfort of knowing that we are obligated to do those 4 things for you.
Great.
Now there are a lot of things that we're not obligated to do for you as a customer. The biggest ones, so this big bold, we're not obligated to promote your best interest or to keep your information confidential.
Okay? I don't like that.
Yeah, most people don't.
Okay.
So as a client, and once again, we'd love you to be a client. This talks about those additional duties that we owe you as a client. So the big ones, once again, are maintaining your information confidential. So as we're talking about homes, as we're looking at them, as you share information, how much you like a house, what you're willing to pay for a house, or other financial things associated with that, or just anything else that you feel is confidential, you have the peace of mind of knowing that we're obligated to keep that just between us, okay? The other big thing is that we're obligated to promote your best interest, so you know as we're negotiating that we are looking out for your best interest and we want the best for you, okay? There are a couple other things in here. It says that here that we're obligated to find a property for you, so we're going to do our best to find whatever property we can that fits your criteria, okay? And you know that we're not just sitting back and waiting around, so we're actually going to be working for you to find those properties. The other thing down here is to be available to you to prepare offers and negotiate offers for you. The one other thing that we are obligated to is basically anything else that we agree to in writing. I mean, so if there's some other term that we want to agree to and put it in writing, we can definitely put that down. Okay? So as a client, you have that peace of mind of knowing that we're obligated to all those things for you. There is one other thing. This actually isn't a client issue, but it's just something to be aware of. It's a wire transfer warning. So with a lot of hackers and scammers and emails and all those other things, if for some reason during this transaction you want to wire money, we just need to confirm that the wiring instructions are correct with a trusted party. We just don't want your money to end up somewhere it's not supposed to.
I appreciate that.
Yep. So the second page talks about a couple things associated with that client relationship. So once you're a client, there are two types of transactions or representation that can occur. If the home that you want to make an offer on is not listed with Keller Williams or an agent with Keller Williams, it would be a single agency transaction because we would be representing you, our brokerage would be representing you, but a different brokerage with a different client or a different agent is representing the seller. Okay. So that's single agency. We have our single clients. Dual agency would be if the property that you wanted to make an offer on is listed with Keller Williams, then Keller Williams is acting on both sides of that transaction. So dual agent to the transaction, which is just fine. But going back to that, promoting best interest, keeping information confidential, we can't advocate for one client over the other. So when it comes to negotiations, we might have to be slightly neutral, but we can't, once again, give preference to one client over the other. Okay. Now, in the representation agreement, if you select dual agency, that doesn't mean it will be dual agency. That just means you're okay if we happen to be on both sides of the transaction.
I see.
Okay. So a couple other things here. This just talks about some of the things you want to look for in a representation agreement. And we'll go over that representation agreement in just a few minutes and kind of touch on all those highlights there.
Sounds good.
And then last 2 things here, we are not licensed inspectors, so we know a lot about homes, a lot about real estate, a lot of experience there. We look at hundreds of homes, but we are not licensed inspectors, and so during the process, if you want more information about a particular item with the house, we may be recommending an inspector, either a general home inspector or a professional in whatever area that we're looking at.
I see.
So, okay. And then the last thing is that a lot of sellers have audio and video surveillance in their homes these days. So you just have to be careful what we're saying when we're at the properties, especially if you want to talk about negotiations. We don't want that seller to know in advance what your negotiating standpoint is.
That makes sense.
So just be cautious of that surveillance. So anyway, that's everything associated with the disclosure brochure, and we definitely want to have you be a client. So are you good going ahead and doing a representation agreement to become a client?
Yes.
All right, sounds great. Well, thanks, Sean, and I'll get that paperwork and we'll go over that.